So today we move on with 34 and 35, and we're seeing more and more, we're coming to the conclusion of the prophecies of Ezekiel. It ends at 39, at 40 through 48 is talking about the new world to come, the connection, what we call the reign of the king, the reign of the coming king, this king of David. I hate to use words like millennial reign or any of this because we haven't gotten that information yet. So I have to be careful when I go into the New Testament. Right now we're looking at a temple that's going to be created by the Messiah. And it is more grandiose than the Solomon temple. And of course it'll be better than the Herodian temple. That was the temple that Jesus knew about. There are really only two temples. And there's supposed to be another one built, which is the third temple. But Messiah will build the fourth one. The third one will be the false Messiah who comes, sets up a temple, sets up worship, and then steps into the Holy of Holies to be worshipped as God. So we see that coming. But this is when we get to 40 and we'll look at some of the cubits and we look at the size. It's bigger, it's more grandiose. I'll try to come up with some pictures. There's a couple of good videos that I can show. But basically between now, so the next 6 chapters, are finishing up the prophecy of Ezekiel. Again, in 32, we talked about what was happening, a lament against Pharaoh. 33, he goes back to talking to the children of Israel and how that they were setting up a watchman. I know I kind of fumbled through that yesterday, but basically it's in a different covenant. In that covenant, the blessings of God were counted upon by the obedience of the people. When the people obeyed, they got blessed. When they didn't obey, they get cursed. And so if they thought that their righteousness would avail them, even though it got into iniquity like we do in the 21st century of God will take my good and my bad and weigh it out, that's not how this works. Either you are righteous or you have your iniquity. And so he's talking more about, again in 33, about the watchman tells people and warns people of the storm, warns people of the coming judgment, and that's their point, to make their choice about their iniquity. Everyone has iniquity. For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. This is something we already touched upon in other verses in the past. So in 33, he's talking about that. So if men are righteous, they pass away, their righteousness counts for something. And their iniquity is forgiven. If they're in iniquity, whatever righteous that they did will be forgotten. So either you have forgiven or forgotten. And that's what we said in Christ, is our sins are forgiven and forgotten. So we see in 34, he starts prophesying against the shepherds. These are the pastors. The word pastor and shepherd are the same word. Here, though, we're using the shepherd's motif because we talk about sheep and flocks and all of this. So the motif is the shepherd. But people who were shepherds are called pastors. The word pastor is only used like 6 times in the whole Bible. Twice in the New Testament, about 4 times in the Old, only in the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah says that he was a pastor of the people. He was trying to lead the people, but they didn't want to follow. The other times in Jeremiah, when the word pastor is used, it's in the negative, as in bad pastors and pastors who lied to the people and prophesied false things. Here, when you hear about shepherd, think pastor, because it's the same word. But to the shepherds of Israel prophesy and say unto them, woe to the shepherds of Israel, and to them that should not be shepherds that feed the flock. Again, people who shouldn't be shepherds are being shepherds. You eat fat and clothe yourself with wool, and you are fed, but you feed not the flock. The diseased have not been strengthened, neither have ye healed those with the sick, neither have you bound those that were broken. And he goes on to talk about they were scattered because there was no shepherd, and they became meat to all the beasts of the field. What was it that John the Baptist said? He said that, he looked upon, and Jesus even mentioned sheep without a shepherd. That he sees these people being sheep without a shepherd. They need a shepherd. But if the shepherd is going to lead them in good places, isn't going to feed them and clothe them and take care of them. So you've scattered them. My sheep wander through the mountains and through every hill, and they are scattered upon all the face of the earth, and none did search or seek after them. Remember the story of the lost sheep that Jesus used. And he was using this against the Pharisees and the Sadducees, who were supposed to be shepherds of the people, but who were clothing themselves and feeding themselves well and taking care of themselves. The city of God at the time of Jesus was a place of prostitutes and beggars and thieves. And you had all these high religious people who did not have anything to do with certain levels of people. That's not how Jehovah wanted it to be. He talks about that because my flock has become a prey and my flock has become meat to the beast, because there was no shepherd. O you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. Behold, I am against the shepherds, and I will require my flock at their hand, and cause them to cease from feeding the flocks. And he takes away these shepherds. He takes away these false pastors. I both search my sheep and seek them out, as a shepherd seeks out his flocks in the day, and he that is among his sheep that are scattered, so will I seek out my sheep, and will deliver them out of all places where they have been scattered in the cloudy and dark day. Cloudy and dark days came, and the pastors abandoned the sheep, and the sheep were left on their own. I will bring them out of the country that were gathered in, and I will bring them into their own land, and feed them upon the mountains of Israel. I will feed them with the good pasture, and upon the high mountains of Israel. I will feed my flock, and I will cause them to lie down, saith the Lord God. There is a lot of plus here at the end of 34 that he goes into. He's very positive of how he's going to take care of the sheep, and he's going to take care of the flock. He's going to take the responsibility. He's taking it away from these shepherds. He's going to give the people a heart of flesh, not a heart of stone. They won't need a go-between. They won't need someone between them and God to help counsel them and guide them. They will have, of course, the word, but they will have the Spirit. And as for the sheep, they eat that which was trodden down under your feet, and they drink which was fouled by your feet. The idea of you only give them the worst, and they drink horrible water because you fouled it with your own feet. Imagine that. Imagine the flocks drinking what someone has walked through with their foul, dirty feet. Because you have thrust with side and with shoulder, and pushed all the diseased from your horns, till ye have scattered them abroad, I will save my flock, and they shall no more be for prey, and I will judge between cattle and cattle. This is very similar to what Jesus said, the sheep and the goats. But here you've got one pushing another, like one animal pushing with his horns, pushing all of them out and scattering them about. That's what these shepherds were doing. And I will set up one shepherd over them. Now we're getting interesting stuff. And he shall feed them, even my servant Daniel. Who is this person who's going to be the shepherd who feeds them? Who takes away the shepherds and becomes the one shepherd, which is Jesus, and he is the one shepherd. We are the flock. I know we like to put ourselves in the categories of theologians and pastors and elders and deacons, and then you have the laity and all of this. We're all sheep, and we have one shepherd. We should go to that shepherd, not the other sheep. Sheep go to sheep, they just stare at one another. They can't feed one another. They don't know where the water is. It takes the shepherd. You need to listen for the shepherd. My sheep know my voice. Know the voice of the shepherd. And so he's going to say, even my servant, and he shall feed them, my servant my servant David will feed them, and he shall be their shepherd, and I, the Lord, will be their God. And my servant Daniel, a prince among them, and I, the Lord, have spoken it. And I will make a covenant with peace, and will cause the evil beasts to cease out of the land. These are the non-believers. And these people will dwell in safety, and I will bless them around about in the hills, and the tree of the field shall yield her fruit, and the earth shall yield its increase, and they shall be safe in their land. We're talking about the future here, because they're not safe in their land yet. But this will happen. And they shall no more be prey to the heathen, neither shall the beast of the land devour them. And I will raise them up a plant of renown, and they will no more be consumed with hunger in the land. Thus they will know that I, the Lord their God, am with them. Emmanuel, God with us. And he talks about, and my flock, the flock of my pastures, are men, and I am your God. So very powerful, positive stuff in 34. In 35, he starts talking against some of the nations about. Again, he talks about Mount Seir. And I am against you, Mount Seir. I will stretch out my hand on you, and you will be desolate. I will lay your cities waste, and you'll be desolate, for you to know that I am the Lord. And why is he doing this to Mount Seir? He says, because you have had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, and the time of their in their iniquity had an end. In other words, when the calamity came because of the fury of God, they jumped in with their iniquity. They took their vengeance. They came in, and that's not what God wanted. Sure, he's coming in judging for sin, but he doesn't want the nations to come in like a bunch of jackals, a bunch of hyenas, and start also joining into the fray. But that's what they did. Therefore, as I live, I have prepared thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee, and thou shalt, blood that you have not hated, even blood that shall pursue you. You're going to have people pursuing you that you never hated upon, which is the Chaldeans. If someone hated you for a reason and came after you, okay, that might be one thing. These people have no hatred for you. You have no hatred for them, but they're going to come upon you. Here's a very interesting verse. Because you've said, these two nations and their country shall be mine, and we will possess it, whereas the Lord was there. You said that the land of Israel was yours, and you're going to possess it. That's where we sit today with this Israeli-Palestinian issue. They're saying, that's our land, we will possess it. If so, why haven't you taken it by now? I mean, it's the size of a postage stamp. The world's on your side. We've given them billions of dollars. They should have just walked in there and said hello. But they cannot, because this land is held by God. Therefore, as I live, I will do according to mine anger, according to thy envy. They envied the land. They wanted the better land, even though they had good land at the time. They wanted the land, and they let their pursuit of the land make them enemies. And thou hast out of thy hatred against them, and I will make myself known unto them when I have judged thee. They will know I am God when they see me judging you. This is the Mount Seir. And you'll know that I am the Lord, and that I have spoken all thy blasphemies, which thou hast spoken against the mountains of Israel. And that you were saying, they are laid desolate. They are given to us to consume. That's what they were saying about it. And they were wrong. Oh, look, it's desolate. We can move in. And that's not the way it was. And with your mouth you have boasted against me. And you have multiplied words against me, and I heard them. Let's listen to that. When we pull this down, he heard the words that the Edomites, those in Mount Seir, were saying against him. God hears the words we're saying. We can't think that he doesn't hear. Thus saith the Lord, when the whole earth rejoiced, I will make thee desolate. And as thou hast rejoiced at the inheritance of the house of Israel, because it was desolate, so will I do unto you. Thou shalt be desolate, O Mount Seir, and all Adenium, even all of it. And you shall know that I am the Lord. So basically saying, you rejoiced when Israel was made desolate. Well, guess what? You're going to be made desolate. So this is a promise of Edom. And again, laying all those nations aside, putting all those nations down, so that when Israel comes back, she'll have no enemies in that area. There'll be nobody to prop up Egypt. Egypt's going to lose Ethiopia and Libya and all these places. You see him again going against the northern kingdoms and Assyria. Nobody to shore them up. He goes against Elam. He goes against, of course, Ammon, Moab, and Esau, Edom. So nobody to shore any of these people. The entire thing is desolate. And even when places come back like Egypt, they will be based. They'll never be the power that they were. None of these will ever rise again at the power that they were. When they say desolate here, it doesn't mean without any person, but basically without any structure, without any government, without any national stance, without any culture. You might have a few nomadic people wandering around, but you don't have a nation. You just have barren land. And so the land was barren for 70 years there. It was barren for 40 years down in Egypt. So here we have him speaking against the nations. In 36, he goes on. In 37, we'll go together. I want to do 38 and 39 together. I think these are bookends. We're finishing up. In 36, we'll go back to talking about Israel. In 37, though, we have a prophecy of good things for Israel. 36 is about the negatives, how he has not been sanctified before their eyes. But 37 is the promise of the valley of the dried bones and how the bones become flesh. Then we look at the prophecy to come, that 38 and 39 have not happened. The things that are recorded in 38 and 39 have not happened in history yet. The nations of Gog and Magog in the north, which can be considered anywhere from Turkey up to Russia. That's the land of Gog and Magog, have never come against Israel, have never had any of these things happen to them. So we're going to see that as prophecy to come. So that'll finish that up, and then we'll go into, in 40 through 48, that temple that this person, this prince, that's called my servant David. When my servant David comes and sets up his temple, it'll look like what's in 48 and 49. And it's something to encourage the Jews when they see that your future is not bad. Actually, your future is to be lifted up. And they're going to be ashamed of their sins and their transgressions. But God still loves them, and he will fulfill the promises he made to Abraham, to David, and of course the promise he made to the captives, that he would bring them back and set them up before himself. It's still rolling, it's still going, and it's still good. Thank you.